So the question that Dusty came up with is, after you've had conflict in a relationship, after you've had, let's say, a fight, an argument, a falling out, a miscommunication, how do you get back to the space of mutual love and trust and understanding?
Well, hopefully the love hasn't,
Well, yeah, I mean, well,
you know. Well, no, that's a thing because
yeah.
sometimes people feel like in an argument, or if there's an argument, that you don't love me,
Right.
or I'm not lovable,
You're mad at me,
and
so you don't love me anymore.
yeah,
Or, no.
and how do you? So spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you move past that, or reassure, or maybe not even have that come up to be questioned? I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
the other side of it. I mean, you can have a discussion, you can have a misunderstanding. I mean, I think the first part is that we have to accept that we're individuals, so we're not always going to see eye to eye on everything, but we can disagree respectfully and yet still not put the relationship in jeopardy.
Mm-hmm. And we're human. We make mistakes from time to time. There's gonna be, moments where we step on each other's toes, where we say something that's not heard clearly or heard the right way, or where we get frustrated and we lash out, maybe because of our own, overwhelm. Um, Hopefully, there's understanding and forgiveness. And hopefully, if you have taken a moment where you've misstepped, you, one, take ownership of your mistake, and you come back with a sincere apology, and not just I'm sorry, but like sincere. I realize that what I may have done or said has hurt you, and I am gravely sorry for whatever misstep that might have been. And I explain maybe what the motivation was behind that. I was coming from a place of insecurity. I was going through a stressful time myself, so I lashed out. Kind of look at where that behavior might have been coming from and take ownership of it. What would you say in answer to your own question? How do you come back to that space of understanding and connection after times of conflict, times of stress?
Well, like everything, I mean, there's different levels of friendship. There's different levels of connection. Um, the other side of it is also that communication, and sometimes some people feel that there's a deeper connection than what really is, and and that can be difficult um, to understand and accept. Give me a second. I want to let this plane fly over. One of the hazards of outdoor camping or podcasting.
Or video casting. Hi, we're live. Well, that's why it's important to find balance in our lives, Marvin. Yeah, we can't just be like working constantly. We need to know when we're feeling a little bit burnt out and when we need to take some time off. So hopefully we are in a space where we can budget for that and be mindful with our expenses and our money, and give ourselves a little bit of time to have some breathing room when we feel we really need it, because we need it.
Well, and vacation can be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a trip somewhere.
No, that's what I mean. Even like taking a day off, if it's not a sick day, just you
Yeah.
need a day off, and you're not going to get paid that day, but you need it for your mental, emotional, physical well-being.
Or getting in the car and taking a vacation drive. Just, driving out to the country or something like that. Or, I don't think that there's a problem with taking a moment outside. I mean, when I had a relationship before Pep that ended, and it was a very significant relationship, and I took about a year off, so to speak. I did some dating, but I mean, I wasn't really inclined to be romantically involved with anybody in any way, shape, or form, and I don't think there's a problem with that. Sometimes maybe we realize that there's something going on in the relationships that we're having,
and because they're unfulfilling, we take note of that, and and maybe make some assessments as to why that is. You know, like, well, why am I having these relationships not feel like they're fulfilling? You know, like I'm here putting forth myself, and I'm present, and I'm available, but yet it's not being reciprocated. And sometimes we feel like we've put so much time and effort into something that, you know, if I just put a little bit more time and effort into it, it's going to make that difference. And, you know, that's not always the case either. There you go. You know, that's a really good point, Pulowski.
Even though we've pretty much moved past our hiccup, often I still feel guilty and get depressed. Yeah, we don't want to hurt the ones we love, but sometimes it happens, and so we carry a lot of guilt and we carry a lot of remorse about that. The best thing is just to forgive ourselves, to love ourselves, and when we get into that headspace of, you know, oh, I'm such a terrible person because I hurt someone, or where we're like getting down on ourselves, beating ourselves up for it, recognize those thought patterns and to just like, you know, either, you know, just literally hug ourselves, or to like, you know, take a deep breath and shift our mindset and shift our focus to, you know, I forgive myself for causing pain to another. Even though I've hurt someone, I know that I'm still a good person. I know I'm still lovable and worthy of love. So just creating those affirmations in our mind that, you know, even though we're imperfect and have made mistakes, we're still worthy of love. We're still a good person.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, as I say, time heals a lot. So, you know, what that time frame is I guess kind of dependent upon people involved. And what was done. I mean, you know, you can forget to open a door for somebody, and they can come off the wire, and the relationship's done with. You know, so it's, you know, it's also what's a balance of realism. I mean, you know, I'm so offended, you know, by the fact you didn't open the door for me. Okay, well, that's better than me slamming the door into you. You know, do you ever open the door for me? You know, why is it that it's always me opening the door for you? And, or I always open the door for you, but you never ever say anything. It's just like it's expected. You know, you don't even say thank you for me opening the door, you know. So sometimes people get kind of fed up with that, and then they just stop, you know. So I think
it's like to be acknowledged.
Yeah, it's being present and acknowledge, and also acknowledging when something has gone wrong and owning up to it, like Pep said earlier, and then forgiveness. You know, and a lot of things, there's nothing even to be forgiven. It's just, okay, it was the act, it happened. You know, but we get so stuck up in it that, you know, even though the other person said, well, I really don't think it's that big a deal. Unlocking passenger door right when you get in.
Something little triggering an avalanche means there was a buildup. Yes.
Yeah.
Or there's other big things. I mean, if we're carrying, let's say we're carrying a huge bundle of like packages, right? We've got all this overwhelm and all this stress and all this trauma from our lives and our past, and we're like carrying this huge load. We trip on a little rock and it all blows up, and everything drops to the ground, right? It's just this little thing that tripped us up. But because we're carrying so much, that little thing tips us over. It's the theoretical straw that broke the camel's back. You know, so we have to find ways to process, to let go, to forgive, to move beyond.
To communicate.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, a lot of people do like to hold grudges, you know, and they did this thing to me 5 years ago and I haven't forgiven them, and holding on to that is only hurting ourselves. You're like, you know, they were a bad person, they, you know, whatever, acted out of their own trauma. You know, I'm not going to let it affect my life. I'm not going to choose to continue to be hurt by it now. I'm like, you know, shit happens.
Yeah, you know, I think a lot of times we carry a lot, and, you know, sometimes, you know, we're carrying a lot throughout the day or throughout the week or the month. And you know, so I think that's another thing as a partner in a relationship, is being present and aware of what's going on in your partner. But again, it also reciprocates back to your partner being able to communicate that and say, hey, look, I got some shit that's happening right now. You know, I might be a little more sensitive than normal, and being cognitive of that. And we're not always cognitive of that. I mean, you know, again, we're human too. We got shit going on in our lives as well. Sometimes we forget that our partner is having a moment, you know. So it's also an understanding that that none of us are perfect, you know. You know, regardless of your religious beliefs or not, you know, the old saying, you know, he without sin cast the first stone. I mean, it's basically like, hey, look, you know, if you're so fucking perfect, then fine, you can cast a stone. You can stone the shit out of somebody, but none of us are. There's not a fucking one of us.
Yeah.
We've all done something that has either contributed or, you know, because we can't be perfect. And I think that's the most important thing is even a relationship. I know a lot of people look at Pep and I and they go, my God, you guys have the perfect relationship. It's perfect because it's imperfect. It's perfect because we both recognize that we're imperfect people, that we're not perfect, and that we make mistakes, that you know, my intentions aren't to hurt you. My intentions aren't to cause you pain, but I might do something or say something without realizing it. And because we are two separate people and we grew up under separate, you know, circumstances and in different worlds, that I'm not aware of everything that's gone on in your life. Even though you've shared so much with me, I'm not aware of everything that's gone on in your life. So I might say something jokingly or whatever, and it might strike a chord, you know.
Yeah, and when we do have, like, you know, when we are feeling overwhelmed, that's why it's really important to find ways for us to decompress, whether that's, you know, yoga or meditation or going to the gym and working out or, you know, punching a punching bag or, you know, getting out in nature, taking a walk, doing breath work. We have to have our own tools independent of anybody else that we can decompress and we can let go of some of our stress. Most respectful relationships I've experienced are people who don't expect a scripted relationship and let me have my own space and peace of mind.
Different relationships can fill different needs. Yeah,
for sure.
But you know, I think that we walk into a lot of relationships with the expectation that someone is going to fulfill us. You know, oh, this person's going to fulfill me. And then we have so many expectations of what that fulfillment is that we lose touch of what the relationship is supposed to be.
Yeah. So coming back to the original question, I'd like to hear from you.
Hey, Drathers.
Hi, Drathers. What are some of the tools or suggestions you would have to come back to a place of harmony and understanding after conflict?
Yeah, well, Drathers just walked in here, so
Yeah.
Why don't we state what that original concept was? It kind of a piggyback off of Pulowski.
Yeah, so Drathers, we're having a conversation about, you know, when you have a conflict with someone, whether this is romantic partnership or friendship, after there's been like a miscommunication or a falling out or an argument or a fight, what are some things we can do to come back to a place of mutual, you know, understanding and love and peace and harmony? It comes down to, again, like all facets of relationship, communication. I had mentioned, you know, taking ownership of when we might have misstepped and, you know, making amends, making a sincere apology. But I think also, you know, if we have the luxury of spending physical space together, of those non-sexual ways of touching, either like, you know, hugging and embracing or, you know, rocking. There's some tantric exercises. There's, you know, hand on heart. There's eye gazing. There's sitting in yab yum. These things that make our bodies and our energy fields feel reconnected. And sometimes it's not talking. Sometimes it's just being in each other's physical space and holding each other and breathing together. So, but I'd like to hear in your own words, like, what are some tools that you think are useful in coming back to that space after conflict?
I think that one of the most important things is not preparing for the conflict, but taking the time to get to know your partner and understanding your partner. You know, also picking the right time to bring something up. You know, that doesn't mean that you have avoidance and you avoid it for, you know, months and months and months and months and months. But it's also, you know, picking the right time. Maybe not just before you go to bed. Maybe not just after somebody gets home from work. You know, first off, both people have to be willing to let go of ego, regardless of who is right, wrong, because very seldom in those situations, only one person is wholly in the wrong. Exactly.
Yeah, it's usually both of you. I think a really good tool in communication is like mirroring each other. So if somebody says something to you, you can reflect their words back. Am I understanding you correctly when you say da 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 da? And that gives them a chance to say, no, what I meant was, you know, to make sure that you're being heard correctly, to make sure that you're communicating correctly, because sometimes we don't hear things quite right, because our egos are fragile and our egos are sensitive, and we do take things personally. I know, you know, one of the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz is don't take anything personally, right? Well, it's hard not to, because our egos get involved and we are sensitive and we have emotions, and when somebody does something to us, yes, we think it's us. Oftentimes it's a reflection of them and where they are, but it's still very difficult not to take it personally.
Well, I'm not going to quite agree with that. I can take it personal. If it's meant to be personal, you know, that's the reason why intent and being responsible for your own interaction. And a lot of times we blame the other person or party or parties for why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. And at the same time, we as individuals have to take responsibility for the way we communicate something and for the intent behind it. You know, and that if we do say something to somebody, we have a pretty good idea that it's going to hurt them, then, you know, or it's reasonably recognizable that it should hurt them, then you can't have this expectation that they're not going to be hurt. So again, before committing the act, take 10 to 15 seconds and quickly review that and go, you know what? Is there a better way I can say this? Or is this even need to be said?
What's my purpose in saying this?
Yeah. What's my intent here? And, you know, that's something that I was taught a long time ago, was to take a moment before you say something.
Yeah.
You can always rethink it in your head, but once you've said it, you can't unsay it.
Right.
You can mitigate it. That's why attorneys are great, but it's been said.
Yeah. Listening is an art form, Marvin. Art means the heart is in it. Blame to avoid blame. Yeah, I mean, oftentimes we listen to respond, right? When somebody's talking, we're already thinking about what we're going to say to them next, rather than just really like tuning in and hearing what they have to say, taking a moment to digest it, and then coming back with a response.
And taking a moment with your intent too. Okay, is my intent to escalate this?
Yeah.
You know, am I so pissed off that, you know what, I'm going to get them. I'm going to even escalate this. And, you know, sometimes we do. Sometimes we get into a situation where we're angry, you know, and, you know, it's like, well, fuck you. I'm going to, you know, you said that to me, so I'm going to escalate this.
Again, because it comes to our ego getting hurt and bruised, and we get defensive, and we feel like we have to defend ourselves.
We lose the intent. What is the intent? Well, the intent is to be heard, to acknowledge, and to correct. And sometimes correct means nothing more than just correcting the ship a little bit, or getting back on track.
We'll get to the goal, don't worry. Pulaski was actually one of the ones who spurred on the conversation, and he's the one who mostly tipped to hit the goal. So we'll get there. We'll do it. I know you're just trying to lighten the mood, but we love these conversations too. We love diving deep with you guys.
Well, this is something that I feel is really, really important. I mean, I go through this. Pep goes through this. Every single one of us goes through this. And we always talk about how to. It's hard to discuss or get back on track, and it's so easy then to like just keep hitting things like, well, you did this, and okay, all right, well, you did that, and I was like, oh, okay,
and we go in circles over and over and over and over when we're like blaming each other. And I mean, blaming somebody keeps us in victim mode. Taking ownership is if you don't take responsibility, it's like emotional terrorism. Mixed. I want to go back to what Drather said here. If the other person isn't communicating and coming to this discussion in good faith, it undermines that whole, don't take this personal. Sometimes we do have to point out certain behaviors that other people are taking that are hurting us. Like, I need to make you aware of something. And hopefully it sinks in. Hopefully that person has some remorse about it, and they're willing to acknowledge their behavior, and they're willing to correct their behavior. And not get defensive and and really take ownership of it.
Yeah, and the emotional terrorism, sometimes we're not even quite aware of what we're doing, but if and that goes both sides. I mean, yes, you can have somebody that says something to you that's rude, or an act that they do can be disrespectful, but you can then turn around and use that to just be brutal. Or
hold it over their head,
or another thing that sometimes happens is when we get hurt, we then pull back emotionally, and that emotionally pulling back also then extends into physical, so we physically start pulling back. So now we're not only emotionally pulling back, but we're physically pulling back. And so how do you get back? Well, one thing is separate that feeling that, okay, you did this to me, so now I'm going to hold back emotionally and I'm going to hold back physically.
Retaliation.
Yeah. It's like, well, I'm going to punish you. Okay, well, I understand, if you turn to your wife or your boyfriend or your husband or your girlfriend and you say something really derogatory, like, you fucking cunt, or you fucking loser, you know what? I'm sorry. That right there, I don't care who you are.
What's your intention again?
It's your intention. But there's also, legitimate, emotional and physical pullback. I wake up in the morning and I tell you, oh, well, you look like shit today. But yet tonight I want you to play with me. It ain't gonna happen.
Hey, crazy blonde. I know. We're so nice. Loving this weather. I'm in shorts and a tank top out
At least
here.
Until tomorrow.
Yeah. Potato Face chimed in with, intention doesn't always equal impact. Intention followed by action is what makes the difference. You can have the best intentions of the world, but if you don't follow through with your action, it's meaningless.
Or I can have silent intention. Like, I can be telling myself what my intentions are, but if I don't actually express them, so the other person knows what's happening, it's just, it doesn't exist.
Actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
So actions combined with words and intentions make the greatest impact.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Thought, word, action, intention, action.
Like, I can turn to Pep and say, Pep, I'm really sorry for what happened. I really, really am. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to disrespect you. And, I hope you can, understand that. Not that I hope you can forgive me. Because I would hope that I didn't do something that's so bad that I'm sitting here, doing that. Also, you know, maybe putting my hand on you, you know, and just saying, hey, you know, what I did the other day was really disrespectful, and I'm really sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. You know, whatever it could be, you know. You know, I'm not going to say that you know, I promise I'll never disrespect you. Okay, that's that right there. Or expecting your partner to never disrespect you. Well, I hope you never disrespect me again. And it's like, okay, well that right there is setting it up for failure. I mean, we're human beings.
All or nothing kind of.
Yeah, we're human beings. We're always gonna fuck something up. I mean, that's just our nature.
Yeah.
That's evolution.
Yeah.
And so again, part of that recovery, part of that getting back to the beauty of your relationship is having the confidence that, number one, this isn't an ender. Number two, that we respect the fact that this apology, this incident is regards to this happening here. It's not a all or nothing. Like, I'll never, you know, and again, it's not like, okay, well, I cheated on you today with a blonde, and tomorrow I'm going to cheat on you with a brunette. But hey, they're different. Oh, and next week there's a redhead down the street. I'm going to cheat on her with her on you, but it's not the same. You know, that's
why it's intention followed by action that matters. So, and if Dusty comes to me with that sort of sincere apology, my best response is, I know you didn't mean to hurt me. I realize you were acting from a place of fear, or that you were very stressed out from that fight you had with your coworker or something. You know, you were already a place of feeling very emotional, you know, vulnerable. So I know you didn't mean to hurt me. I accept your apology.
Yeah.
And not holding it over their head, and just, you know, really coming to that place of understanding from your hearts. Hey, Ben!
Hey, Ben!
On the lighter side, looking at your pics, I like your points of impact. Yeah. It's not a face-to-face relationship, man. 2 weeks of phone calls and messages. It takes time. It does take time.
Yeah.
It takes time to lick our wounds. It takes time to, you know, come back to, you know... It takes time.
Well, it depends on what it is, too. 2 weeks is not that long
at all.
Well, it depends on what it is, too. I mean, sometimes some people, you know, will get into something where it's like, okay, I understand you might be upset, but let's be realistic, okay? I mean, I'm sorry I didn't put the milk in the fucking refrigerator, okay? Yeah. But you're holding back your emotional connection with me because the milk was left out on the counter.
Yeah. Or is our response?
I mean, I understand it might have been the camel that broke the straw's back.
Or if you always leave the milk out, you know, if it was once or twice, yeah. But if you always leave the milk out, come on, don't buy any more milk at the store.
That or
I don't know.
Or just put it away. I remember.
Put it away yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
I
did you
remember,
have to point it out? Put it away yourself.
I remember this. This is a story. It was an old talk show person. Her name was Dr. Laura. And somebody called in, and the person was complaining about the fact that her husband would, you know, forget to pick something up and put something away. Okay, you know, he'd come home, he wouldn't, you know, whatever, you know, and so so this one woman was calling and saying, you know, it's really annoying, la da 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 da, you know, why can't he be more responsible or something along those lines. And she said, you know, I can understand you're being annoyed by it. She said, but outside of that, do you have a great time with him? Do you enjoy? Yeah. I just wish it really gets annoying. He just, you know, he always does this. And she said, oh, okay. There was a woman who called in here, and she said, I really miss the fact that my husband would forget to put his jacket on the hook. I really miss that. And I used to bitch about him. I used to bitch about him doing that, but now every time I come home, that jacket is still hung right there. It's never on the floor. It's always hung.
Because he's not around.
Because he's not there anymore to not forget to put it up on the hook. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And, you know, sometimes, you know, there's peculiarities about Pep that I would miss if she wasn't around. And I think that's also a way of getting back, you know, when we have those moments where we have the disconnect because of an argument or something like that. What would life be like? You know, is this really that important? You know, is this disagreement that we're having because one of us didn't put the seat down, or what the fuck ever? You know, is it really that important? And that's also about bringing stuff up, like, you know,
you have to bring up every little thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of couples get into this about the chores. It's like, you never take the trash out. You know, it's like, why is it one person's job? You both create the trash.
Yeah.
So if the trash is full, take it out. You know, it's not
Yeah.
his job to take out the trash. It's not my job to do the dishes. If there's dishes in the sink and he happens to see him first, he'll do the dishes. If he's not home because he's on like a job site or something and I happen to be home, I do the chores because I have more free time. Or, you know, if he happens to be, it's just, why do you gotta like divide it up? Your chores, my chores. It's like you both take
Our
care.
team.
You
You're
both
together.
take care of the household. If I see the trash is full and he didn't take it out, well, I'll take the fucking trash out. I don't care who does it. It needs to get done.
Yeah.
I mean, no, if you feel like one of you is
Always
doing the
always
burden
vacuuming,
of
always
it, you know,
cleaning,
there
always doing
might
this.
be
Yeah.
something to address. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, you know, and,
But then that's not
and in
much
a
of a
loving
mutual.
way.
That's not much of a mutual relationship either.
Right, but it can also be addressed in a loving way, not an attacking way. You never help around the house. You never do any chores. You know, you can sit down and say, "Hey, I'd like to address something, and I don't feel that there is an equal responsibility here of us both taking care of the household. So, is there a way that we can find to share the responsibilities more equally?" And it's all in the way that you put it,
Yeah.
in the intention. To my boyfriend, if he cooks, I'm cleaning the dishes, and when I cook, he does the dishes. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So I say we get to some pussy licking.
Sure.
Yeah.